Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about 6 different rogue strategies you can play in this format. Now, we're going to basically consider U6, Shenron, Towa, and Janemba to be basically the decks that make up most of the meta. Because if you look at the events that I covered over the past few weeks, if you look at Gen Con, if you look at Philly, Melbourne, and Orlando, those are the decks that you're going to see take up most of the top cut spots. Now, we do have tons of other decks that are basically lining in and out of those top cuts. You know, like these formats have been super diverse, like anywhere from 8 to 10 to 11, 12 different leaders in these top cuts. But this is what I'm going to call the rogue section. Now, please don't crucify me if I call your deck rogue, because I kind of gave you the parameters of what I'm identifying as rogue. Just those decks, like I mentioned before, Shenron, Towa, Janemba, and U6, they're taking up the majority of these top cuts. So I'm looking at decks that are not as prevalent in the format, but still very strong decks. People aren't playing them in high doses for whatever reason, but decks that I still find to be very strong. Now, before we get into this video, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with awesome Dragon Ball Super content that I post here. If you're looking for a Dragon Ball Super community to get in touch with, make sure to check out the Discord in the description below. Excellent group of people, incredibly helpful people. If you want to support the channel, guys, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description below. Lots of competitive content now that we are in regional season that can really help you out, and it really helps the channel out a lot as well. And finally, guys, if you want to buy any of these decks, buy any of the cards I talk about in this video, make sure to use my link to TCG Player in the description below. All of it really helps the channel out. Really appreciate each and every one of you guys that does that for me and watches the videos. With that being said, we'll get into this. So the first leader you're going to see on the left here, we've got Pan. So Pan did recently make it to the finals of the Orlando event, but again, I am going to classify this as a rogue deck because if we look at all the other events like Gen Con, Melbourne, this deck was not really prevalent in those top cuts. Either that or it wasn't in the top cut spread at all. So this is a deck that's going to be kind of dodgy. I think it depends on who plays it, but even if we look at the Orlando regional itself, Pan got first place in Swiss. That was my teammate Tim Palacios, and then it ended up coming in second place at the event. Now, what's important to note is those were actually 2 different variants. So the variant that my teammate Tim got first place with was mono red Pan, featuring the typical Chain Zeno shenanigans, board reset, but it also featured the Familial Bonds engine, which is basically just all the good red 3-drop 15k or less Sands and Familial Bonds. So it gives Pan a very new way to span the board and go aggressive. I think Pan kind of made the shift from like mid-range / control with Chain Zeno to more of an aggressive option, or at least like a hybrid that can go back and forth between aggro and the control option of Chain Zeno. Otherwise, you'll play the build that we saw at the finals of the Orlando regional, which is red-green Pan. So red-green's a bit less control. Most of these builds, as far as I've seen, don't main deck Chain Zeno. You can sideboard into it if you feel like it's necessary, but mostly this is going to abuse the red-green counterplay cards like Vegeta the Cruel and Mach Speed Kaioken Son Goku. This build also aims to abuse the relationship between Dimension Sport Trunks, the vanilla 2-drop 15k Goku, and Piccolo Special Beam Cannon Unleashed. So that's a very powerful combo. Basically, you use the Trunks to bring in the Goku. The Goku's a 15k, but Pan will boost it to 20k. You'll draw a card off of Pan, and then you can free play the Piccolo to either KO anything your opponent controls or KO a 2-drop or less, and then your opponent pitches 2 cards. Now, very high tempo play, but you don't have all the control options. You do still have access to Familial Bonds, which is nice. So Pan is going to be one of my spots for your rogue pick this format. Then we've got Skilless. So Skilless, again, another dodgy pick, something that's been in and out, but I think the past like 3 events it's made top cut at least 1 spot, and really what we've been seeing do well with this deck is yellow in particular. Now, a few mono yellow builds have topped several events, and then we see the occasional blue yellow build, which again brings warmth and joy to my heart because I'm a die-hard blue yellow Skilless player. But I think the deck is just incredibly good. Like, this deck in the right pilot's hands can just take you super far in a tournament. Like, it might not be the strongest deck in the room, it might not be the most flashy deck in the room, it doesn't do the craziest things, but you have consistent draw power, you have consistently large hands, you probably have some of the largest hands in the room at the event, and you just bring out huge resources. You bring out 30k beaters from your deck, you can reborn 20k beaters from your drop area after comboing them for a 10k. Skilless is just like value the deck as long as you're able to get going, and in a format like this with a lot of Shenron, a lot of Janemba, a lot of Towa, you're probably going to run a lot of Self-Awakeners to make the deck more viable, because at some point you will need to flip yourself over, and the decks I just mentioned don't attack your leader if they don't have to. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind there. But Skillless, I think it's a great pick right now. Next card you see, we have Frieza Prison. That's what I want to talk about next. So another one that's in and out of top cuts, but this deck is very, very annoying to play against. Now, you'll hear a lot of people tell you this is a trap deck. This is a deck that is fake good, quote unquote, but realistically, it's not a bad deck. I mean, the deck has very powerful options, and it has one of the biggest floodgate cards in the game, which we don't really see too many floodgates. Like, you might think of like Flying Nimbus as a floodgate, maybe, but Live to Fight Another Day is a seriously obnoxious card, and that's not me trying to complain about it. That's me more so trying to tell you, like, this is a card that's pretty much worth its merit, because against all the other fair decks, like, you're gonna make a fair deck player want to pull his hair out, because if a player can only produce one threat a turn, or like nothing above 20,000, they're gonna basically play into Live to Fight Another Day every single time. And that's gonna be very, very, very frustrating. Now, what I will say on top of that is this deck actually takes a hit from a recent ruling where Mercenary Tau is ruled to actually affect Live to Fight Another Day. Not sure if that's supposed to be the way it works, but it is official ruling. Like, because it adds a cost as a discard, it gets kind of weird. But just know that Mercenary Tau does affect Live to Fight Another Day. So if you are going to play Frieza Prison, you're probably going to want to have answers to that. You can't necessarily play the 2-drop Krillin that pops barriers. It's the most common way to deal with it, but I think there are other ways that Frieza Prison can deal with it at a 4 cost or higher. I'm sure there are. You just got to find those. But nonetheless, you stall at turn 6, you resolve Live to Fight Another Day like 3 turns in a row, and then you drop Babidi, make people cry. It's I guess if you like that kind of thing, it's can be pretty fun. So next up, we'll talk about the Kaioken in the picture there. So we've got Red Green Good Stuff. Red Green Good Stuff is a deck that picked up a lot of steam at PPT Philly, made a few talk bets here and there, has kind of fallen off, but the deck is super powerful. I mean, you have elements of everything in the deck, right? You have whatever leader you want to play. You've got Clash of Fates Goku for ultra consistency. You've got Yamcha, which gives you access to After Image and Denial of Hope, 2 amazing counterplay cards. But then you have all the other good counterplays. You have, again, Vegeta the Cruel. You have Mach Speed Kaioken. You have a lot of good body counterplays, Vegeta the Cruel being the key one, especially in like things like the Toa matchup. You also have hints of aggression because you have very, very cheap Arrival plays like Arrival Gogeta, Arrival Kaioken, things that just put a lot of pressure on very, very early. And then you're playing one of the most broken boss monsters in the game, being Kaioken Goku, Defender of Earth. So all these things combined, it can be a little inconsistent. It can be a little bricky because you play a lot of 10Ks, a lot of extra cards. But I think that it's still a very, very strong pick because you have dimensions of all the game. Like I said, you have aggro. You even have defense with the Arrivals. You have defense with Arrival Gogeta. You have control with the Denial of Hope, with the Vegeta counterplays. And you've got the Kaioken boss monster top end. I think that's very, very good. Next up, we're going to talk about a deck that I haven't seen in a top cut in forever. I think it made one spot at Gen Con, and I think that's been it so far, and that's going to be AOD Boo. Now, this might not be the most budget-friendly deck to talk about because it does involve a Secret Rare, but even then, I think the Secret Rare is only sitting at about $100 to $120 right now. Don't fact check me, I didn't check before this, but nonetheless, the rest of the deck should be very, very cheap, and then you just buy the Secret Rare, or if you have the Secret Rare sitting around, I think this is a good deck to sleeve up and put together. So, basically, what this deck does is, on turn 3, you're looking to play your whole Boo combos. It's going to be your 2-drop Boo from the Anniversary Box. Since the Child Wishes banned, the 3-drop Boo isn't very viable. So there's a 2-drop Boo from the Anniversary Box that you're going to want to bring out from the deck with Assemble the Squad. You're going to evolve into the 5-drop Boo, and then do your typical AOD shenanigans using the Dende Leader to mill, ideally milling some of your AODs, and span the board that way. One of the reasons why I think this deck is very, very good is because not a lot of the decks in the format, like a lot of the top tier decks in the format, aren't playing the counterplays that screw you over. So if you look at U6, they don't really have anything that's too crazy. They do have Chomp of the Trickster, but one of the points I'm going to make here is that Crusher Ball hurts this deck a lot more than Chomp of the Trickster, because Chomp of the Trickster can only rest one of your battle cards, not your entire board of AODs like Crusher Ball can. So Crusher Ball seeing no play right now means that AOD seems like a very good pick. Then you look at Toa. They do have like the God Strike ability to remove the triple strike of your SCR, but that doesn't really matter because swinging at them with 3 to 5 crits is still insane. Shenron has pretty much no counterplay, so there's a turn 3 win con deck against a deck with no counterplay. That's very good. And then if you look at the final deck of the format, guys, Janemba, that's going to be the only one where you're probably going to struggle a bit more because they have a lot of counterplays to deal with your Boo, your 2-drop Boo. But if you go first in that matchup, you're actually going to have a pretty good time because they're not going to be able to counterplay you efficiently if you go first. So another deck I would consider. And finally, guys, the final deck we're going to talk about here, Broly Height of Mastery. So a lot of people thought that Height of Mastery just kind of fell down in popularity after Chomp the Trickster and Mutato came out, and I'm definitely one of those people. But a key difference I want to point out here is that Chomp of the Trickster does not lock down Height of Mastery the same way that Mutaito does. Mutaito says specifically that the card cannot be restood for the rest of the whole turn. Chomp of the Trickster does not say that. So if you're playing Broly leader in particular, all you have to do is activate leader effect, take a life, restand Height of Mastery, and he's still a triple strike dual attacker, or you can still evolve Victory Strike on top of him. Victory Strike I know is not going to be accessible for everybody, but it actually is a very powerful card this format, with decks like Janemba, decks like Toa being very, very popular. And even like against Shenron, like if you can go first, get a turn 4 Victory Strike off while they're at like 6-7 life, that's gonna be pretty popular, pretty powerful as well. So guys, those are my 6 picks for this format in terms of rogue strategies. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these decks. What rogue strategies are you guys playing around with this format? Really want to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching, guys. My name is Joey. This is Crossroads TCG, and I'll see you guys in the next video.